Hi, my name is Zizaran, and Metamorph League is out, and the Atlas is pretty confusing. So I wanted to make a quick video summing up and giving some tips on all the things that I have learned and seen so far. We'll try, once we have everything 100% figured out, we'll try to make a more advanced and more polished guide. But I wanted to get a guide and video out as soon as possible, especially for people who like the way I explain things. So first, gonna start a little bit basic about how maps drop. So they can start dropping tier 1 maps a little bit before you reach maps, but especially when you start doing maps, let's say you're doing a tier 1 wharf, you can drop the connected ones. So you can drop laboratory, alleyways, and strand. Now, we're not sure if it's a bug or a feature with the way the new Atlas works and these like ribbon sections. Some people are saying that they've had other maps inside the same region drop without having them completed. So we're still waiting to figure out if this is a bug or a feature. But I personally have only had completed maps drop. Now, there are a few things that ignore your actual Atlas. A Metamorph in the Metamorph League can drop maps. These are not bound by your Atlas. So if you're doing a Metamorph in a museum map, that could drop an uncompleted lower level map from this region. You can also get maps at Ziri that are also not completed in your Atlas. However, to the best of my knowledge, if you have a laboratory map and you're completing that, you cannot get a map from this region unless they are completed. Now, once you have completed a map, so say that I'm doing this museum map, I can 100% drop a pit map. This is completed and it is one level above. That means that any blue monster or the boss can drop a pit. So I want to explain a little bit about the drop restrictions and how maps drop. If you are in a tier 3 museum map, right? Normal monsters or white monsters in this map can only drop a tier 3 map. And no matter the bonus, which we'll talk about and explain later, that is the max a white or a normal monster can drop. A blue monster can drop one higher than the map you're in. If you're in a museum map tier 3, blue monsters or magic monsters can drop a tier 4 map. Now do remember that everything like lower can also be dropped. So if you're in a tier 14 map, you can still drop tier 7s. You can get +2 maps as well from Metamorphs, and you can also get +2 maps from the boss. So if you're killing the boss of a museum, you can get a tier 5 map. And rares used to be able to drop +2 maps, they no longer can, so a rare can only drop the same as a blue. If you're in a tier 3 maps, rare can only drop tier 4. So, Atlas bonus. So now I want to talk a little bit about the Atlas bonus. First I'll talk about how you get it, and then I'll explain what it does. So the Atlas bonus for the white maps on the Atlas is just to kill the boss in a magic or higher version. That means you just have to transmute it and then kill the boss. So for this wharf map, blue map equals completion when you kill the boss. Natural yellow maps, which you can only get by putting in watchstones, which is the next thing we're going to explain, can only be get the completion bonus once you kill the boss in a rare version of the map. So for example, for Flooded Mine, it has to be rare, and then you get the bonus. For the natural red ones, you have to kill them in a corrupted rare version of the map. Now, this is slightly trickier because when you use a Val Orb on the map, the entire map can change, and it can change all of the rolls to the map, which is obviously bad if you're an elemental build. You could end up getting mods such as Elemental Reflect, which I can't read at all, but it does kill me. A Val Orb can also change the map to another map that you might already have completed. Now let's talk a little bit about what the bonus does. Once you have a 100% chance, if the map determines that a tier 7 map is about to drop, a tier 8 map will drop instead. This does, however, not bypass the base drop restrictions that we talked about earlier. So if I'm clearing a tier 9 pen map and a tier 9 map is decided that's what the monster is about to drop, but you're killing a normal monster, that will still not drop a tier 10 map. So no matter what, a normal monster will not drop a map that is higher than the one you're in. However, if you're killing a normal monster in a tier 9 pen, and that was about to be a tier 7 map with 100% or over bonus, that is guaranteed to be a tier 8 map. So it is still very beneficial to get. Once you have 154%, it is a 54% chance that it's going to be 2 levels higher than what it was going to drop. Now, in Metamorph League, we've also got something called Awakening bonus. This is just the same thing as that and stacks with it. However, it only gives 0.5%. So for the Awakening bonus of the map, this will require a fully socketed Citadel, and each fully socketed Citadel gives you 1 Awakening level. So if I change these two back down here, you'll see that the Awakening level goes up. So, for example, a terrace needs this map to be completed at level tier 15. So you need a tier 15 terrace, and you will also need 8 fully socketed Citadels. Now, different to the normal bonus, the Awakening, that doesn't need the map to be rolled a certain way. This could actually be a white map. Once you have both of these maxed, you can get 231. That guarantees that it was going to be 2 levels higher than the one that was supposed to drop, and a 31 chance that it's going to be 3 levels higher. Next up, let's talk about Citadels. So after the most recent patch, Citadels always appear after the 3rd map you do in one region. So that means that Cursed Crypt was most likely the 3rd map I did in this region. Zana will appear and take you to an area, and you'll unlock the Citadel. Now, this doesn't really change anything until you start getting watchstones. And the early watchstones are pretty easy to figure out and to retrieve. So if you look at the boxes on my left now, all of these say region level 4 required to spawn Exile. However, that is because I'm already at 16 watchstones, and it changes a lot here. Early on, it'll say, for example, region level 1 required to spawn an Exile. So let's say that the green watchstone I have from this region was region level 1 required. What that would mean would be that I only need to have 1 watchstone in this region, and then I need to start doing maps from this region. So I would do Phantasmagoria, Academy, any of these maps, and eventually one of the Conquerors is going to appear. This is going to disappear. The Citadel will be gone from your map, and then there'll be a color. Red, it depends on which one you get. It'll be red, green, yellow, or blue. And that also determines what boss you would get. So, for example, green would then be the Hunter boss. Now, once, especially early, pre-16 watchstones, it's very easy to spawn this boss. You just have to do 3 or so. You have to do a very low amount of maps from this region. If I put an Academy in now and have my Atlas open, you'll see a big shine come out. And every time this happens, there's a chance for the Hunter to spawn. And once that happens, you'll have an exclamation mark like this above Zana and above Kirak. So you'll talk to Kirak first. He will spawn the boss on the Atlas. And then you talk to Zana, and she'll have a travel to whatever that specific boss is called. Once you do that, she'll open a normal, and I think it's a white map always. And you clear that map, and once you kill the boss, that'll open a portal to that boss. If it's something you haven't done before, you will get a watchstone. You can keep this watchstone in your inventory, or you can put it into where you got it from. Now, something that's important to remember and notice is that even though I got this watchstone from Waldo's Nest, I can still use it in the Hierarch Hamlet. So it does not matter where you get them from. They're completely interchangeable. Now, after you kill the boss, the Citadel will appear again, and you can take your stones out. However, until you've killed the boss, they will be sort of locked inside this region. Now, the more and more watchstones you get, it'll start saying, for example, region level 2 and 3 and 4 required. So it's very, very simple. 2 just means that you need to have 2 watchstones in. 3 means 3. And 4 is a fully socketed one. Now, once you have gotten 16 of these watchstones, that means you can spawn the Awakener. To do this, all I had to do was have 4 Citadels with 4 watchstones in them each. And then Zana gave me the option to travel to Sirius' Citadel. And after this, it starts changing a little bit as well. So as you can see now, all the region levels are now level 4 required to spawn an exile. But another thing that's changed, which has given a lot of people a lot of confusion, is that pre-16 watchstones, they spawn very quickly. You see the shine come out every time you open a map, and normally within, like, I felt like it was always within 3, but at least in a very short amount of maps, influence would spawn. So once you're at this stage with 16 watchstones, it will take a long time for the actual influence to spawn. I actually haven't had a single tier 4 spawn yet, and I believe it could take upwards of 20, maybe 30 maps for influence to spawn, and they're obviously going to be very high level at this point. Now that we've talked a little bit about watchstones, especially something that can be confusing is how to get higher level maps early on. So what I did early on is I completed as many maps white as possible, so I would have more reach on the atlas. Because I was going with the assumption, which from what I can tell, like, you cannot drop unconnected maps with very few exceptions, like bosses and metamorphs. However, a lot of people were struggling early on with figuring out how to get to yellow maps, like tier 6s. Now, let's do some examples and talk about, like, the bottom left region, for example, naturally goes to tier 5. So with no watchstone in here, Basilica is tier 5. Now, because I have, let's see, here's one example. So Underground Sea is a tier 6 map. This is already completed, so the Basilica can drop a Underground Sea. So if I have a tier 5 Basilica, a blue monster or the boss or whatever can drop a tier 6 Underground Sea. And then from there, like, I can go to the Arsenal tier 7 and stuff like that. So you'll have to play around a little bit with, like, upgrading. And then I can go, like, for example, tier 6 Underground Sea, tier 7, and I can get up to tier 8 maps, and then eventually I'll be able to go to Fungal Hollow, and then you'll, like, keep exploring your atlas that way. Now, I was trying to target farm, especially a Desert Spring, which is a natural tier 15, and I managed to get a Defiled Cathedral, and at least for getting my Desert Spring, I had to farm adjacent maps until I got it. So I was especially trying to focus on having maps close to that. Now, another tip I want to give you guys is you can still target farm to some degree. However, obviously it's more limited which maps. So something Ember noticed was if you have your atlas with 3 watchstones in the Lyra Arthane region, Relic Chamber is the only tier 11. Now this is really nice because that means that every time a tier 11 map drops, it is always going to be Relic Chamber. No other map can drop. So the benefit for this is that I am trying to farm an Astromantis card. And that drops in Relic Chamber. So that's what I've been doing at the moment. I'm going to try to figure out exactly what maps are target farmable and stuff like that. And then we will, I'll make a full list of that as well. Now, something that has changed a little bit is 3-to-1ing your maps for the Atlas. And this is pretty confusing. So what I have now is a bunch of alleyways. Alleyways is a tier 2 map in the Tyrn's End region. However, before, a map could only sell for 3-to-1 into the maps it directly connected to. Now, a map can 3-to-1 for all the maps inside the region. It's very complicated, but basically, if I sell these alleyways, they'll sell to Temple. If I switch one out, they'll sell to Primordial Pool. Museum. Primordial Pool again. Primordial Pool again. Waterways. So by using different combinations of the same maps, they can fill out all the maps inside the region. It's a little bit complicated, and the best way to explain it is think of every individual map having its own seed, and you can form different combinations depending on what maps you have. Now this means if you only have 3 maps, you can only hit that exactly map. So for example, if I only had the 3 alleyways that turn into museum, that would always hit the museum. But with one more map, I have a lot more combination. Once you have like 5 or 6 of the same, like for example alleyways, then you can always hit like every other map inside the region. Now, the only thing left to explain, I think, is awakening levels, and this is for each fully socketed citadel you have. So at the moment I have 3, and I can get a 4th by putting this one in here. And what it does is pretty self-explanatory. It makes the bosses have more life. You get higher effective modifiers on non-unique maps. So for example, if you have 100% increased lightning damage, it'll be 112. Stuff like that. 4% chance for an additional connected map to drop from the unique boss. 2% chance for a Shaper Guardian map to drop from the unique map boss, and that's only in tier 14 plus. And 2% chance for an Elder map. 2% chance for an additional Atlas base type. So that would be something like a Steel Ring, a Bone Helmet. 4% chance for an additional unique item to drop from the boss map. So this, like, they're going for making bosses better to kill. I think it's pretty cool. Metamorph helps with that too. And additional map currency items, which is Sextants. Increased chance per awakening level for the Conquerors to drop additional rewards. So if you do spawn a Conqueror, they can drop more stuff and more influence bases. If you're fighting monsters that are influenced by the Conquerors, like they're special monsters that only appear when you're in an influenced area, they have a 20% chance to drop base items like, I'll show you, these. And they have a lot of different mods. The one I'm going for on ED is like the green ones have a lot of chaos damage or damage over time stuff. And they all drop, so like green ones are from the green dude, the hunter, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they only drop from special monsters, but I'm not 100% sure. They might drop from any monster in there. I haven't had a single one outside of bosses, so I've been pretty unlucky, but they can in fact drop from at least their influence monsters, maybe from anything in the map. Somebody did say they got one from a strong box, so that makes me think they can drop from anything inside influence maps. The last thing I can think of explaining is Sextants. I do have a long full video on explaining how the old Sextants work and all like the what the different mods do, but you would use a Sextant on the actual watchstone. So the ones I'm looking for is, for example, this one's great. 6 additional packs of monsters that deal chaos damage. Now I can actually use more of the same tier. So 6 additional packs of corrupted Val monsters and 6 additional packs of lightning monsters. Now I only want 3 watchstones here, so I'm going to move this one out. And then I'm farming relic chambers, and now you can see that this is affected. All of the ones inside are affected. None in the other regions, but everything in this region. So now I get 18 additional packs of monsters. Obviously this is great, and we'll drop a lot of extra loot. I don't have a full list of all the new mods. I haven't used many Prime or Awakened Sextants yet. So at least the main things that I'm looking for are these kinds of things, like extra monsters equal good. Another thing that can be really good is the barrels, but some of the barrels are super dangerous. They are random. I think there's 3 or 4 different kinds of barrels. And yeah, one of them drops lots of monster, one of them drops lots of loot, one of them drops explosions of death. Another thing that is really, really good for exploring and finishing your atlas is that Zana will sell you lots of different maps. This is a good opportunity to save chance orbs just for this specific purpose early on. And sometimes she can sell you special stuff too, like divination cards, and she can sell you shaper maps, or even maps influenced by the shaper or elder. So make sure you do check out her inventory. It's very, very important. And Zana can also sell you the synth maps, which you can also drop from bosses. You might be wondering, how do you reset what maps she sells? Now, for this, you have to do a daily quest. You don't actually have to finish it, but as soon as you actually open an atlas mission and put in a map, then that will reset everything she sells. We're going to try to do a more advanced video in the future as well. If you have any questions or you need any help with anything, drop by my channel at twitch.tv/Zizaran. Thanks for watching, and try to die less than I do.